So Dr. Lau, you have a Quora entry
Okay.
that has become very popular, it seems. All right.
Yes.
And
I'm so-called now the most popular writer, is it? Yeah.
and the title for this Quora entry or content is how do you recognize a beginner data scientist from a professional one?
Yeah.
The good and compare the good or the great ones.
great one.
Right. So how do you do it, Dr. Lau?
Okay, so perhaps before we go into that, we have to define a little bit on the word professional. So, Ruben, when it comes to the word professional, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Professionals are people who have the ability to work in serious projects, in serious companies, to do real stuff.
Okay, so consider that as part of their profession, per
Yes.
se, right? So for example, professional sports player, they are different from the amateur sports
Hobbies,
player.
you
They are
know.
not hobbies, right? So that's for sports. So in terms of data science, also we're similar. So I think beginners data scientists, I mean everyone was once a beginner, right? I was too. I think the very first quality of a professional data scientist is that the depth of understanding. So the guy that, let's say in digital marketing or in data science, right? You need to have the entire understanding, overall experience, handle the projects from end to end. Yeah, so that would be the very first quality that I look at. And also I think a beginners might know the good side of a programming language or particular algorithms or
Right.
particular methods, but a professional one, they know the bad side. So they wouldn't tell you that you should do this because this is good, but they will also tell you that you shouldn't do this because it's going to bring you certain kind of side effect.
Okay.
So that's the very first quality, is that the depth of understanding. They not only they know about the good side, but they know also the bad side.
So the way you have positioned a professional data scientist sound like somebody who knows the full stack of the end to end, right? The full stack of the
Yes.
whole process.
Yeah.
Something like if I were to be a digital marketer, I understand the full stack of digital marketing.
Yes, correct. So
Facebook,
you are,
that I know how it correlates something, and I'll be able to actually run a campaign from end to end.
Correct. So not just like in your context, it's not somebody who knows how to buy Facebook ads or bid for the ads, but he also know SEO, also know a bit of like
Post-marketing
Google
in a nutshell,
AdWords. Yeah, correct.
All right. So that's the three criterias.
The very first one.
The very first one.
Yeah, the very first one.
All right.
So the second criteria will be the professional data scientists. They are hired by companies so that they are called professional because they make a living by doing data science, right? So they need to understand the business needs of it, the business impact, and more than the technical impact. So a lot of data scientists, even though they're quite experienced, they're seasoned data scientists, but they are very good in technical. So they probably understand the machine learning parts, the speed of the database, how to speed up the queries, for example, how to use Spark for in-memory processing, all sort of technicals. So their technical expertise was good, but they also need to understand the business impact, because data scientists, one of the key criteria of data scientists is that you need to have a business acumen. Because whenever we work in a project, it has to tie to two things, right? Have you the business to drive values, drive revenue up, or reduce the cost, or drive the cost down. So, and the successful data science project is not only to tie it to machine learning models, or buzzword like AI or evaluation of the machine learning model. It's not just that, but also they need to know, a professional data scientist need to know how to translate those results from the machine learning, from the models, to tangible business value. Yeah, so they need to know how to translate and tie it up with the actual business use case.
So they need to know business in a nutshell, right?
Yes, they need to know the business, and they need to have very good business acumen in the particular industry that they work on.
Right. And the third criteria?
Okay, so the third criteria is they are able to finish a project end to end independently on their own. So remember, we always talk about awesome framework, obtaining data, scrubbing data, exploring data, modeling, and interpreting data. So professional data scientists are the ones who are able to do that independently on their own. So there are many people who are able to, they work on projects out there, but they're probably involved in a certain part of that part of the life cycle. So they're probably not very experienced in working with gathering data, or they are not so experienced in visualizing the data, for example. But a professional data scientist I would expect him to be someone who have experienced the entire life cycle before, and not just on projects or homework type of tutorial basis, but they've really been through the entire life cycle and able to handle them.
I think this ties back to our motto or philosophy of being the T-shaped skill set.
So jack of all trades, master of some. So I'm not expecting. So don't get me wrong, right? I'm not expecting you as a data scientist to understand everything, right? The best way to do ETL, the best way to do all sort of machine learning models from random forest, linear regression. That takes time to gain those experience. I mean, we take 15-20 years just to build things up. But for professional data scientists, I'm expecting you to understand not just the spectrum, but also you master a few of the key skill sets. Like my specialties is in text mining, text processing, natural language processing, but I also know how to process videos, images, and also audio at the same time. Yeah.
My name is Olivia, and I'm a copy and content writer, and I've also dabbled a bit in digital marketing. I think I found the workshops really useful in terms of linking what we've learned to practical use cases. For me, that was quite effective, because for me, like, learning in person is a lot easier than learning through online videos and lectures, which I've definitely tried before.
So aside from the three criteria that I see here, what are some other traits that determines a beginner and also a professional data scientist?
Yeah, so that's very personal type of opinions, and also speaking from experience, I work with a lot of data scientists, and I hire, and then I also work as data scientist and being hired before. But maybe I would like to hear from you as well. Like, do you agree with the points that I mentioned? And also, like, from your perspective, any others more generic traits, like not just data scientists, but let's say about someone who are professional digital marketers. What are the other traits that you think they should?
I think the other traits, do you mean like besides what you have put?
Besides, I mean, if you disagree or you have something to add on.
I mean, I do agree that that these 3 points are very important. Professional person, the digital marketer, or even a data scientist should know all these things. But one very important thing that probably is not here yet, or if I missed it, is communication.
Yep.
All right. So in any project, whether it's marketing, whether it's data science, I think communication is a very important thing.
Yep.
Right. So it's a very important skill to be able to communicate with the right people in the company and to get your points across.
Yep. So I think listening skill is also one of the key thing, and actually listening skill is one of the essential skills in part of the communication as well. Right? Communication is not just, it's two-way traffic, not just me talking, but you also is me talking and I'm listening as well.
Right.
So on top of that, I think professional data scientists, I would expect them to be able to train and also to help help to educate their junior data science team members, because whenever you're in a professional environment, you are not expected to work alone, right? So to take on your point, communicate, so educate them and help to train them up as junior data science team members. And also another point that I would like to talk about is sharing. So data science community is a very open and because of the tools that we use, we move from very enterprise driven to nowadays very open source driven. So we see those things just like tools. So we're more than happy to share how do we process the data, how do we come across a data set, how do we process them, how do we analyze them, and some of the potential pitfalls that you should avoid as well. So not to say that we want to share everything like the data openly, because sometimes the data are sensitive, but we'll do our best to help the community to grow together and probably shorten the time that you learn or take a shortcut by avoiding all the unnecessary mistakes.
Because when you teach, you also learn, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that's why we love teaching as well.
I think I read somewhere that in order to learn something very effectively, you want to learn to be able to teach.
Yep.
If that makes sense.
Yes. So willing to share. I think we mentioned many times also like creating a portfolio, and then talk about blogging. Yeah. Or just be part of the community. I think that'll be it.
Okay. And the last one here.
Yeah, the last one here is constantly updating their skills and also knowledge. So you always see people like, I'm 10 years, I'm a data scientist with 10 years experience, or not just data scientist, right? Any industry, they will say I'm 10 years experience. But some people, they use the same experience for 10 years. And some people constantly upgrade their knowledge, upskill themselves by learning, and then keeping themselves up to date with the industry movement, with the newest tools, and etc. So I think as a professional, think about like basketball players, soccer players, and also badminton players. They are professional sports players. So how is it different from us? We don't train, right? We basically just play socially, casually, but they really train. They look at a particular thing, specific techniques that they want to improve. So I think that applies to data scientists as well. Is you really have to constantly look at your knowledge, and then widen your knowledge, and then make sure that you improve on your current skill sets as well.
So I think those are all very good points that differentiates a beginner and a professional data scientist.
Yes.
All right. So from this list here, which one do you check off this list here, right? And what are other skills or criteria do you think that are important that we did not explain here today? Let us know in the comment section below, right? We'd love to hear from you. And as always, do subscribe to us on YouTube, like us on Facebook, and visit us on delete.io for more content like this. And let us know.
Yep. See you next time.
Thanks for watching.